One thing I've learned since I started making games is that I really enjoy game jams. Most game jams are pretty simple. You're given a theme to follow and a deadline to meet. I found that these limitations are really helpful for my creative process and force me to create something new and challenging. So when I saw Noah from Blackthornprod tweet out the theme reveal for his third game jam, I decided to give it a shot. I had 1 week to create a game centered around the theme less is more. I actually love this theme. I felt like it was broad enough for people to get really innovative with it. After taking a couple hours to brainstorm, I decided that I wanted to create a game based around a message. I envisioned an atmospheric game that wouldn't have to explain anything with words or dialogue, which would be a challenge in itself. I had a lot of ideas in mind at this point, so I figured I'd just get started and see where things went. I started by creating a player model and its animations in Blender. I wanted to get this step out of the way because I usually struggle with it and didn't want to be stressing out at the end of the week. For now, I just created a simple walking animation and a sneaking animation. The sneaking animation ended up having no relevance to the final game, but come on, it looks hilarious. To finish out the day, I set up some player movement and camera follow in Unity. I plan to use a lot of pathfinding and AI in this game, so I started day 2 by setting up a simple agent, just walking from point to point using the shortest path. Once I had the template working, I created a bunch of clones, gave them all phones, and ended up with this mess. This would ultimately be the intro of the game, where you would have to find yourself in a crowd of creepy phone robots. The intention was to have players asking themselves, who am I, which can double as an existential question. It's kind of cheesy, but I was rolling with it. Towards the end of the day, I created the first outline of the level. It was pretty sloppy, but I figured I could clean it up throughout the week. Now the next 2 days were a bit busy for me, so I didn't get too much done. I've done minimal camera work in my games, so I incorporated smooth camera transitions to get some practice with it. I also added some more AI agents to different parts of the level, some of which would be guards and others would be phone-obsessed test subjects that look just like the player. If the player was spotted, I added more camera work to show the guard that saw the player, and then I returned the player to the most recent checkpoint. Unfortunately, day 4 was even less productive. All I did was outline the latter parts of the game a bit more, but other than that, it was pretty much a wash. I was starting to get nervous about finishing the game at this point, but if worse came to worse, I knew I could just stay up late on the last night to finish it. I started the day by incorporating an animation for looking at your phone, because that would eventually be a core mechanic. Some sections would require you to blend in with a still crowd. Others would require you to mimic a more dynamic one. On day 5, I also came up with the color scheme and the look of the game. I wanted to keep it simple in the theme of less is more and to align with the atmosphere that I was shooting for. I was really shooting to finish the game on day 6. I didn't want to have to scramble to try to get everything done on the last day. After polishing the AI, I created the last stretch of the game as well as the outro. It took me way too much time to come up with an outro that I liked, and I spent far too much time looking up how to make grass shaders, only to not use one, but I'm pretty happy with how it came out. Once the core of the game was done, I threw a menu together using a render I made in Blender. All I had left to do on day 7 was to create the soundtrack. I fired up Ableton and created a simple 4-chord loop using an ambient instrument. With that, I was done. Although it took me a few builds to get the game fine-tuned, I was still able to submit with an hour to spare. I'm actually pretty happy with how the game has been received so far. The reviews have been positive and constructive, and I'll definitely be re-uploading my game with a lot of the changes that were suggested. I had a blast making this game, and I've also had a lot of fun playing some of the other amazing games that were submitted. I'm definitely doing more game jams in the upcoming weeks, so be sure to subscribe to stay tuned. Thank you for watching, stay up, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Slow it down to a medium groove.